Hey folks, welcome to Black Gumbo. Let's talk about gloves. Hey folks, in my gardening lifespan, which isn't that long, but it's been long enough to pick up some good information, I've used a lot of different gloves. So we've tried, all the gimmicky gloves and all the different kinds of gardening gloves, like these cloth and rubber gloves. These are like almost dish gloves with cloth on the back. They're okay, but they don't really protect you if you're really doing some hard work. Another kind, these are my son's gloves. They're okay. He likes them. They've got a leather inside here, but breathable cloth on the outside. I just don't like these myself. I've tried work gloves, just typical kind of work gloves that have a leather on the inside, and they have this cuff. Pardon. I don't like the cuff because I'm always catching stuff inside here, like dirt, soils, and mulch. Always get down in here because I've got this big cuff. Then you've got your construction style, old school, these leather gloves. Again, they've got this cuff and they've got cloth. And what the cloth does, the cloth absorbs all your sweat and all the water you're dealing with, and it just makes a nasty, heavy, gunky mess. And they get stiff and brittle. I don't like them at all. I've tried these automotive kind of gloves that have a stretchy fabric and a rubberized grip. These are actually pretty nice. I'll use these occasionally when they're on hand. I don't have my other gloves. I'll use these to work on the car. They're okay. They're not bad. But what I really like is a leather glove, a basic calf hide or cowhide leather work glove. These are a brand new pair of gloves. These are in reserve for when I wear out my others, but these are what I like the most. And the reason I like them is when you wear them, they conform to your hand really well. They're close. The cuff isn't that big, and they protect you from thorns and from spiny things, but they're really good all-around versatile gloves for working with brush and working with pruning, working with sticky plants, working with soils. These are some wonderful gloves because they conform to your hand. You can put these on and they feel like a glove ought to feel. They feel like a second skin, and they're really tough. But you gotta know how to care for them. Let me talk about care. When it comes to caring for gloves, and leather in particular, you will hear all kinds of crazy ideas about how you should use neat's foot oil, leather conditioner, linseed oil, shoe polish, shoe conditioners, and all these kinds of things. And a lot of that's, okay, that it can work. But if you want a glove that conforms to your hand, that is like a second skin, that is pliable, stretches, and really is a waterproof glove, I want to talk about how to care for them the right way, in my opinion. And I use this stuff called Picard's leather dressing. And the reason I use a leather dressing and not neat's foot oil, or not the shoe oil you can buy from Kiwi or from these companies that sell shoe stuff, is because a lot of those other products are said to, now I don't know if it's completely true or not, but I know that some of the shoe products it's true about. The petrochemicals in those oils and some of the components in those oils can actually degrade the stitching of some of your gloves, and it just really depends on what that stitching's made of. And I'm not just saying this from reading it on other websites. I have experience in this. This bayonet scabbard is made of leather, and this leather is 100 years old. The stitching is 100 years old. If I go and put neat's foot oil in this stitching, I don't know what's going to happen to it. I've also worked in museums of natural science, and various places where old relics are conserved, and things like a pouch like this that comes with a gun oiler, this cool brass oiler. This is an old relic, and this goes with a firearm, and I don't want this stitching to pull away and bust, and so I want to be very careful what I put on it, but I want the leather to remain nice and pliable. And so that's why I've researched and really spent a lot of time finding a product that I can use on valuable antiquities, relics that are important to me, and my work gloves. I actually like to wear the glove when I am conditioning the glove because that allows me to get into all the little nooks and crannies. This is a pretty dirty, filthy glove. Anything that's dried on here you want to scrape off. But if you've got ground in dirt and you've got ground in grime, that doesn't really matter as much. all we're doing is conditioning the leather with an oil. And so I'll just take some oil and I will begin to rub this oil all over the entire surface of the glove. And that's all there is to it. You just rub this in with a t-shirt, a piece of oilcloth or something, and rub it in until it's completely, especially on the insides where you're actually grabbing things, that is usually rougher leather. And so you want to go pretty liberal, pretty heavy with this. What we're trying to do is keep the leather pliable and to give a little bit of waterproofing to the leather itself. Make sure you get it in all the seams. This stuff, again, is not really going to degrade your seam work. Now, an oil on leather is a classic old world technique. In fact, the hat that I'm wearing right now is an old canvas cloth hat. Part of it's canvas, part of it's synthetic cloth. But what I've done with this hat is this is the hat I wear if it's raining outside, because I've gone and I've taken linseed oil and I've treated this hat with linseed oil, boiled linseed oil, which is kind of an old world way of waterproofing. You can see the sheen on this hat, and it's a little bit stiff, and the brim will conform to however you shape it because it's impregnated with this linseed oil, boiled linseed oil. And get the boiled linseed oil, it actually dries, and that gives you a hat that is nice and waterproof. They would, if you read old books, you find these references to things called oil skins, and sailors and people who worked outdoors would wear oil skins. And in these oil skins, all they're talking about is a piece of cloth that has been treated with linseed oil. And you treat that by doing what I'm doing here. You rub it in, several coats of the stuff, and you just keep rubbing that stuff in, and eventually you're going to have a nice, almost waterproof finish. And so that's a way to take a hat that you really like and to make the thing last a little bit longer. And so this hat that I'm wearing is actually a fairly waterproof hat, and I use this hat whenever it's raining outside or whenever there's a chance of rain. If you're into horse tack, you probably know about this stuff, but a lot of guys with horses will use neat's foot oil or some other proprietary stuff that I don't know about. There might be something better out there. If there is, I'd like to know about it. What I'm looking for are materials that condition your leather and restore the leather's moisture without degrading the stitching. I don't need something that's a soap. These are garden gloves. I'm not trying to go into King's Parade or the Queen's Parade with my fine steed. I don't have a fine steed. I got a corgi. She don't wear leather. So now we have a nice, well-oiled piece of leather here. And you can see that in some of the hard-to-reach places, I wasn't able to get a lot of oil in there, but that's okay because I put it on in a heavy fashion. That will migrate. And so you can compare this pair of gloves. This pair of gloves has been sitting untreated for quite a while. This is an old pair that got wet and shrunk. I could get my hands in there, but in order to make it fit again, I'm going to have to treat it. And you can compare that to the treated glove, and you can see there's more pliability, and it just feels good. This will expand to fit my hand. Now that it's been treated, it'll be a little more pliable. This one will take some work. However, this is still a very good pair of gloves. These leather gloves, I really love them. Like us on Facebook, look us up on Instagram. We'd really like to see you there. Thanks for subscribing to our channel here. If you haven't done so, please do so. We really appreciate it. It encourages us. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.